the flowering of human consciousness, and the end of the egoic nightmare. Imagine a world, roughly 114 million years ago, where a single event forever altered the trajectory of life on Earth. One morning, as the sun began to peek over the horizon, the first flower appeared. It was a fragile, delicate thing, likely short-lived in a world not yet accustomed to such beauty. But that first blossom signaled a monumental shift in the evolution of plants. A breakthrough that eventually led to a planet covered in color and fragrance. For millions of years, flowers have served as a bridge between the physical and the formless, captivating human beings not for any practical survival reason, but because they reflect something deep within our own nature. When we look at a flower and feel a sense of stillness and wonder, we are witnessing the flowering of our own consciousness. This is where our journey begins today, not with a lesson in botany, but with a profound exploration of the human mind, based on the timeless wisdom of Eckhart Tolle. We are currently at a crossroads in human history that is far more significant than the first flower's appearance. We are witnessing the birth of a new state of consciousness, a transformation so radical that it makes everything we've known up to this point seem like a dim reflection. Tolle argues that we are facing a choice: evolve or perish. Our current state of mind, which he identifies as the egoic consciousness, is no longer sustainable. It is a state of madness that has led to centuries of conflict, environmental destruction, and personal suffering. But within this crisis lies the opportunity for a massive leap forward. To understand the shift we need to make, we first have to look at the anatomy of our current dysfunction. We start with the word I. It is the most commonly used word in any language, yet it is also the most misunderstood. Most people live their lives trapped in a mental structure that they call myself. This I is a fabrication of the mind, a collection of thoughts, memories, and roles that we mistake for our true essence. Tolle describes the ego as a perceptual cataract, a fog that prevents us from seeing reality as it truly is. The core of this ego is identification. We identify with our possessions, our bodies, our opinions, and our stories. Think about a child who loses their favorite toy and cries as if their very world has ended. To that child, the toy wasn't just an object, it was part of their I. As we grow older, the objects of identification change. It becomes the car, the house, the job title, or the social status. But the underlying structure remains the same. We seek to find ourselves in things that are inherently fleeting and unstable. This is the tragic trap of the ego. It tries to find a permanent sense of self in a world of constant change. Tolle shares the story of a woman he visited who was dying of cancer. She was furious because she believed a nurse had stolen her diamond ring, an heirloom from her grandmother. He guided her to realize that the ring was just an idea in her head, and that her true value, her true being, was untouched by the loss of any physical object. When she finally let go of the identification with the ring, a profound peace settled over her. She realized she was not her possessions. The ego doesn't just identify with things, it identifies with thoughts. Most of us have a voice in our head that never stops talking. It narrates our lives, judges others, complains about the weather, and worries about the future. The greatest mistake we make is believing that we are that voice. Tolle recounts a pivotal moment in his own life when he was a student in London. He saw a woman on the subway who was talking to herself in a state of intense anger, arguing with an imaginary person. He initially thought she was crazy, but then he realized that he was doing the exact same thing, just internally. The only difference was that her voice was audible. This realization was the beginning of his awakening. He saw that he was the observer of the voice, not the voice itself. This is the crucial distinction. There is a difference between the I that thinks and the I that is aware of the thinking. When we live solely in the stream of thought, we are in a state of spiritual sleepwalking. We are possessed by our minds. This mental noise creates a sense of separation between ourselves and the rest of life. It makes us feel like isolated fragments in a hostile universe, which in turn leads to the ego's primary emotions, fear and greed. The ego thrives on the concept of more. It is never satisfied because its very nature is built on a sense of lack. It feels small and vulnerable, so it tries to expand itself by accumulating more wealth, more knowledge, or more recognition. This is why we have a consumerist society that is never fulfilled. The ego believes that if it gets the next thing, it will finally be happy. But as soon as it acquires that thing, the sense of satisfaction fades, and the hunger returns. It's an addiction. Furthermore, the ego defines itself through comparison. It needs to feel better than, or more right than, someone else to feel a sense of existence. This is why we are so prone to complaining and judging. When we complain about someone else, it gives us a temporary feeling of superiority. We are right, and they are wrong. This, being right, is one of the most powerful ego boosters there is. It creates a boundary between us and the other, reinforcing the illusion of a separate self. This dysfunction isn't just personal, it is collective. Nationalistic pride, religious dogmatism, and tribalism are all forms of collective ego. They lead to a us versus them mentality that has been the root cause of every war and atrocity in human history. The collective ego is even more dangerous than the individual ego because it is amplified by the thousands or millions of people who identify with it. One of the most insidious aspects of the ego is what Tolle calls the pain body. This is a semi-autonomous energy field of old emotional pain that lives inside almost every human being. It is the accumulation of all the hurts, disappointments, and traumas we have experienced since childhood. The pain body remains dormant most of the time, but it periodically wakes up and demands to be fed. And what does it feed on? More pain. It seeks out drama, conflict, and negative thoughts. When your pain body is active, you will find yourself picking a fight with your spouse, dwelling on a past resentment, or becoming consumed by a dark mood. It's as if a demon has taken over your personality. You might say things you don't mean or act in ways that are completely out of character. The most important thing to understand about the pain body is that it wants you to identify with it. It wants you to think that you are that anger or that sadness. Once you identify with it, you become its slave. Tolle illustrates this with the story of two monks, Tanzan and Aikido, walking along a muddy road. They encounter a beautiful girl who cannot cross a large puddle without ruining her silk kimono. Tanzan simply picks her up and carries her across. Hours later, as they reach their destination, Aikido, who has been brooding, finally bursts out. "Why did you do that?" "Monks are not supposed to touch women," Tanzan replies. "I set her down back at the river." "Why are you still carrying her?" "We all carry, girls at the river, resentments and pains from the past that we refuse to let go of." Allowing our pain bodies to dictate our present reality. Breaking free from the ego and the pain body is not something that requires years of effort or a complex spiritual practice. It starts with a simple shift in attention. It is the transition from being the thinker to being the observer. When a negative thought arises, or when you feel the heavy cloud of the pain body descending, you don't try to fight it or push it away. Instead, you simply notice it. You acknowledge, "There is a thought telling me I'm not good enough," or "There is a feeling of anger rising in me." By observing it, you create a space between yourself and the mental or emotional event. In that space, there is stillness. In that space, there is presence. This presence is your true self. It is the formless consciousness that lies behind the masks of personality. Tolle explains that consciousness is like the light from a movie projector. The thoughts and emotions are the images on the screen. Most people are so absorbed in the movie that they forget the light that makes it possible. When you become aware of the light, the movie doesn't necessarily stop, but it loses its power to overwhelm you. You realize that you are the screen, not the drama playing out upon it. This shift to presence is the discovery of inner space. Most of our lives are spent in outer space. The world of form, noise, and constant doing. We are obsessed with content. What happened today, what might happen tomorrow, what people think of us. We ignore the container, which is the vast, silent space of awareness in which all these things occur. To access this inner space, we need to find gaps in the stream of thought. This can be as simple as taking a single conscious breath. When you focus your entire attention on the feeling of air entering and leaving your body, your mind stops for a moment. In that moment, you are fully present. You are no longer lost in the past or the future. You are here, in the only moment that actually exists. Stillness is the language of the formless. It is the language of what many traditions call God, or Source. Tolle suggests that instead of looking for God as an object out there, we should look for the silence and the space within ourselves. This stillness is not an absence of life, it is the very essence of life. It is the I am that exists before any labels are added to it. A profound part of this awakening is understanding our inner purpose. Tolle makes a distinction between our outer purpose, which involves our jobs, our goals, and our achievements, and our inner purpose. Our inner purpose is to be present. It is the primary purpose of every human being. If you ignore your inner purpose, no matter how successful you are in the world, you will always feel a sense of emptiness and dissatisfaction. But when you align your life with your inner purpose, your outer actions take on a different quality. You are no longer working for the sake of the ego, you are working as a channel for consciousness. This brings us to the three modalities of awakened doing. The first is acceptance. There are many things in life we cannot change, and the ego often wastes enormous energy resisting them. Acceptance means saying yes to the present moment, even if it's unpleasant. If you have a flat tire in the rain, complaining doesn't fix the tire, it only makes you miserable. Acceptance is acknowledging the reality of the situation without the mental story of, this shouldn't be happening. From that state of acceptance, you can take effective action. The second modality is enjoyment. This isn't about the pleasure we get from external stimuli, like eating a fancy meal or watching a movie. It is the joy that comes from the activity itself when we are fully present within it. Whether you are washing dishes, writing a report, or walking your dog, if you do it with full attention, you will feel a subtle sense of aliveness. This joy is the being, flowing into the doing. The third modality is enthusiasm. This is the highest form of awakened action. Enthusiasm happens when you have a clear vision or goal, but that goal is not fueled by egoic desire or the need to become somebody. Instead, it is fueled by the joy of the creative process itself. Enthusiasm is a state where you are aligned with the creative power of the universe. When you are in this state, you don't feel stressed or drained, because you aren't the one doing the work. Life is working through you. You become a frequency holder, someone who anchors the light of consciousness in the world of form. Tolle's vision of a new earth is not a utopian dream of a future where all problems are solved. It is a reality that is emerging right now through people who are beginning to wake up. It is a world where the primary motivator for human action is no longer the ego but presence. Imagine a world where people no longer derive their identity from their nationality, their religion, or their possessions. Imagine a world where we treat nature not as a resource to be exploited, but as a living expression of the same consciousness that dwells within us. This shift is already happening in small ways every time someone chooses to be present instead of reactive. Every time someone offers a moment of genuine listening without judgment, and every time someone finds stillness in the midst of chaos. The evolution of consciousness is the most important event occurring on our planet. It is the end of the old Earth, the Earth defined by fear, conflict, and separation, and the birth of a world where the human mind is no longer a master but a servant to the spirit. Let's talk about the practical application of these ideas, because wisdom without practice is just more mental content. One of the most effective ways to dissolve the ego is to practice non-reaction to the egos of others. When someone is rude to you, or when they try to trigger your pain body, notice your own impulse to react. The ego loves to defend itself, to strike back, to prove that it is right. But when you react, you are simply reinforcing the egoic cycle. If you can stay present and observe the other person's behavior as a symptom of their own unconsciousness, you don't take it personally. You see that their ego is attacking your ego, but it cannot touch the essence of who you are. This isn't about being a doormat, it's about acting from a place of clarity rather than reactivity. Sometimes, the most powerful response is to do nothing at all, or to say a simple, firm, no, without any emotional drama. Tolle shares the story of a Zen master who was accused of fathering a child. When the angry parents confronted him, he simply said, "Is that so?" When they brought the baby for him to care for, he took it. A year later, when the true father was revealed and they apologized, he simply said, "Is that so?" and handed the child back. He was completely unattached to his reputation or the roles the world tried to cast him in. He remained in the state of isness. Another vital practice is to become aware of your relationship with the present moment. Ask yourself frequently, what is my relationship with now? Is the present moment an obstacle? A means to an end? Or an enemy? Most of us treat the now as an obstacle we need to get through to reach some better then. We are constantly rushing toward the future, missing the life that is happening right in front of us. This creates a state of chronic stress and anxiety. If you are always living for the future, you will never actually be happy, because the future is just a thought in your head. Happiness can only exist in the present. When you make the now your friend, you stop resisting life. You start to see that every moment, no matter how mundane, is an opportunity to connect with being. Even waiting in line at the grocery store can be a spiritual practice if you use it as a time to feel your inner body, to breathe consciously, and to simply be aware of the space around you. The concept of the inner body is a cornerstone of Tolle's teaching. Most of us are only aware of our bodies when they are in pain or when we are looking in a mirror. But there is a deeper, more vital level of the body, the energy field of life that flows through every cell. By bringing your attention into your hands, your feet, and your chest, you can feel a subtle tingling or warmth. This is the aliveness of your being. When you are anchored in your inner body, your mind becomes quiet. It is very difficult to have an anxious thought while you are fully feeling the life inside your physical form. This practice is like a spiritual anchor. It keeps you from being swept away by the storms of the mind. It also strengthens your immune system and your overall sense of well-being. It is the bridge to the unmanifested, the source of all life. Tolle also explores the paradox of time. He distinguishes between clock time, which we need for practical purposes, like meeting a friend for lunch, and psychological time. Psychological time is the ego's obsession with the past and the future. It is the dwelling on old mistakes, the harboring of grudges, and the constant planning for a future that will finally be enough. The ego lives in psychological time because the present moment is its death. In the now, there is no room for the story of me. There is only what is. To be free of the ego is to be free of psychological time. This doesn't mean you don't learn from the past or prepare for the future, but you do so from a foundation of being fully present in the moment. When you are focused on the task at hand, the past and the future become irrelevant. You are in a state of flow. This is the secret of high performance and true creativity. We must also touch on the subject of abundance. The ego's worldview is one of scarcity. It believes that there isn't enough to go around, enough money, enough love, enough attention, and so it must fight and compete. This mindset actually creates the very lack it fears. Tolle proposes a different law of the universe. Abundance flows to those who already feel abundant. This doesn't mean you have to be rich to be wealthy. It means you have to recognize the abundance that is already present in your life. The air you breathe, the sunlight on your skin, the beauty of a tree, all of these are expressions of the infinite wealth of life. When you acknowledge and appreciate what is already here, you shift your internal frequency from lack to fullness. And because the external world is a reflection of your internal state, this internal abundance eventually manifests in your outer life. He suggests a simple practice: whatever you think people are withholding from you, praise, appreciation, help, love, give it to them. You cannot receive what you do not give. By giving, you acknowledge that you have it to give. This is the secret of true prosperity. As we move toward the conclusion of this exploration, we must revisit the concept of the New Earth. It is not something that will be brought about by a new political system, a new technology, or a new religious organization. These are all structures in the world of form. A new world can only be born from a new consciousness. The current structures of our world, the way we run our businesses, our schools, and our governments, are all reflections of the egoic mind. As long as the mind remains the same, we will simply recreate the same problems under different names. But as more individuals wake up and begin to live from a place of presence, the collective consciousness will begin to shift. We will see the emergence of conscious doing, where people work together not to win or to dominate, but to create and to serve the whole. This awakening is the true meaning of the second coming, or the new heaven, described in various spiritual traditions. It is not an external event, it is an internal realization. The new heaven is the inner space of consciousness, and the new earth is the physical manifestation of that consciousness. We are the pioneers of this new reality. Every time you catch yourself in an egoic thought and choose to come back to the present moment, you are contributing to the birth of a new earth. Every time you choose compassion over judgment, you are healing the collective psyche. You are not just a person trying to improve your life, you are a vital participant in the evolution of the universe itself. The journey toward awakening is often triggered by what Tolle calls loss of form. This can be the loss of a job, the end of a relationship, the death of a loved one, or the loss of physical health. These events are often devastating to the ego because they tear away the things it has used to define itself. But if we can meet these losses with acceptance, they become powerful catalysts for growth. When the outer purpose is stripped away, we are forced to find our inner purpose. We are forced to discover the part of ourselves that cannot be lost, the part that is not dependent on circumstances. This is why many people who have gone through great suffering often emerge with a profound sense of peace and wisdom. They have seen through the illusion of form and have touched the eternal. They have found the peace that passes all understanding. Think about the story of Stephen Hawking, which Tolle uses as a powerful example. Here was a man who lost almost every physical function, who was confined to a wheelchair and unable to speak without a computer. From the ego's perspective, his life was a disaster. But because he accepted his condition so completely, his consciousness was able to expand far beyond the limitations of his body. He became one of the most brilliant minds of our age, exploring the vastness of the universe while sitting perfectly still. His life was a testament to the power of presence. He was not his disability, he was the awareness that witnessed it. The transition to a new consciousness is not a smooth or easy process. The old egoic structures are deeply entrenched, and they will fight for their survival. We see this in the increasing polarization and conflict in our world today. But these are the death throes of the old way of being. Just as a caterpillar must dissolve into a state of chaos before it can become a butterfly, our world is going through a period of intense breakdown to make way for a breakthrough. Your role in this process is to stay awake. Don't get sucked into the drama. Don't feed the pain body of the collective. Instead, anchor yourself in the stillness of the now. Be the space in which the drama occurs, but don't be defined by it. In your daily life, look for opportunities to be small. The ego hates being small. It wants to be big, important, and recognized. But there is a great power in being a nobody. When you don't need to impress anyone, when you don't need to defend your image, you are free. You are no longer performing. You are just being. This is what Jesus meant when he said, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." The meek are those who have let go of the burden of the ego. They are the ones who can truly enjoy the beauty and abundance of life because they are no longer trying to own it. We are all like the first flower that bloomed millions of years ago. Individually, we may feel fragile and insignificant in the face of the world's problems. But collectively, we represent a new stage of evolution. We are the means through which the universe is becoming conscious of itself. This is the ultimate purpose of human life, to bring the light of awareness into the world of form. As you move through your day, remember that your primary responsibility is not to do more, but to be more present, more aware, more still. This is how you fulfill your inner purpose. This is how you help to create a new earth. Tolle's message is ultimately one of profound hope. He reminds us that the insanity of the human mind is not our permanent state. It is a stage of development that we are finally ready to outgrow. The suffering we experience is the pressure that is forcing us to wake up. And once you wake up, you realize that the world you were so afraid of was just a dream, a nightmare created by your own mind. You wake up to the realization that you are not the voice in your head, you are not the pain in your body, and you are not the story of your life. You are the silent, eternal witness to it all. You are the consciousness that gives life to the universe. As we end this deep dive, take a moment to look around you. Don't label what you see. Don't judge it. Just see the colors, the shapes, the textures. Listen to the sounds without trying to name them. Feel the air on your skin. Feel the life inside your own body. In this moment, there is no ego. In this moment, there is no past or future. There is only the vast, radiant space of the now. This is the doorway. This is the flowering. This is your true home. Carry this stillness with you into everything you do. Be the light that shines through the form. And know that in doing so, you are part of a grand transformation that is unfolding throughout the entire universe. The new earth is not a place you go to. It is a way of being that you bring into the world. It starts with you, it starts here, and it starts now. Thank you for taking this journey into the essence of a new earth. May your life be a reflection of the peace and the presence that is your birthright. Stay present, stay aware, and keep flowering.